Remember searching singlemuslim.com proudly sponsors Single Muslim Live.
Assalamu alaikum and welcome to Single Muslim Live here on British Muslim TV, sponsored by singlemuslim.com. I'm Fahima Mohammed, your host and life coach. A very, very warm welcome to all of you who may be watching on Sky TV, channel 752, or if you're streaming live on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, or YouTube, a very, very warm welcome from all of us here on the British Muslim team. I want to again introduce to you the different topics that we are raising each week, and tonight is no different. You can most certainly participate in the show and have a conversation with us, and you can do so by calling us at the studio on 01924 231 083. Standard network rates do apply, so please do ask the bill payer's permission. If you want to send us a message, and it can be anonymously, again, you can reach us on the WhatsApp free message on 07585835150. I look forward to hearing some of your comments and queries. And again, tonight we're going to be discussing another relationship issue, and that is, why do men cheat? I know there's been quite a lot of conversations on the platforms already when this topic was posted, but you know, the statistics are there and they do not lie, whether or not we like it, with regards to what's happening in our Western world as well as in our Muslim communities today. And to help me in this conversation and join us tonight, I have another special guest, and I'd love to welcome him. We have Imran Ahmed. Assalamu alaikum, Imran. How are you tonight?
Wa alaikum salam. Very good. Thank you, Fahima.
I'm really happy and excited to have you today, and I appreciate your time. It's definitely a topic which I think we can give some respectful and sort of like balanced views on this, regardless of what the statistics say. I think you and me both, we deal with these kinds of issues and you come across it quite a lot. But before we go into the topic, could you tell me and the viewers a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, of course. So first of all, thank you for having me. I'm looking a bit blurry, but there you go. My how do I start? My background has probably led me to the life that I'm leading today, and that was pretty challenging, pretty awkward, and pretty distressing. But the most important thing is that I found a way through all of that by personal growth. So I've gone through a number of journeys, lived through a number of countries, explored the world a little bit, explored myself, and come to a point in life with maturity and understanding. Now I'm at the age of 40. I believe I've reached that level of maturity and wisdom, but there's more to go. But what I do really is I don't judge people on behaviors. I look for understanding. I look for what's beneath the surface in everything. And that's throughout the work that I've done. And today I work with Tony Robbins, who's, I'm sure most people are aware, one of the leading life coaches in the world. But I work for him every month, or probably a couple of times a term. So we have a decent relationship, and I like changing lives. That's my job.
Lovely. I absolutely love what you just said there. And so many things have already popped into my mind while you were speaking, especially when you talked about personal growth and having a journey, and the age that you're at the moment as well. And do you find that while we're discussing this topic, that a lot of us are not on that learning journey, that growth and development, and that's why we can fall into certain situations and circumstances? Now, we're going to be discussing tonight, why do men cheat? Now, it might be very obvious to a lot of people as to what that means, but can you give us kind of like a meaning ascribed to what it is when someone's unfaithful, and what is cheating?
Okay, so let me start with this, right? Because unless I frame this correctly, this is going to go horribly wrong, because it's going to feel like we're against men and we want to focus in and hone in on men only. I'm a man. This is why we're talking about why men cheat, not women. I couldn't come on here and speak about why women cheat. I'm talking about why men cheat. Women do it as well, but understand that there are elements to cheating that we don't understand. And that word, I hate that word. I hate that word cheat, because what does that word presuppose? It presupposes that someone's committed fraud, trickery, they're dirty, they're dishonest, they've betrayed someone, they swindle, they're double crossing. Now, the fact that you call someone a cheat in the first place means that you've come to a determination and a meaning about what that person has done without understanding any of the elements that go behind it. So cheating itself, I don't believe that. I believe misguided men, confused men at this stage. We were just talking about a minute ago. How do these behaviors get to generate into our lives? There's a reason for it. And that personal growth journey allows you to understand those behaviors better. So what is cheating? I don't agree with it. Misguided or confused, yes. Cheating is not. Yes, there are a proportion of the population of men that will cheat, that are narcissistic and psychopathic, and they will feel pride and honor whilst doing it. But the majority of men have their reasons. I don't agree with them. But let's circle back to that personal growth element. So let's do our best and try to understand what language can do to us as well. Because if right now you're creating a meaning about me, now imagine thinking this guy's trying to sell me something and swindle something from me. Are you going to hear me? Are you going to listen to me? Are you going to pay attention? No. So let's just be kind and clear on the language we use as well, because that affects our psychology and our emotions.
I hear you loud and clear, but I also hear probably a lot of the women that are screaming behind the screens right now. And I'm going to be honest with you, and I understand the language, I understand when it comes to personal growth and development, but the actual consequences of this act is really detrimental to most. And there are a lot of people that do feel that even though it is one act that one person does very selfishly, as well as they do not consider anybody else, and they do not consider the consequences and the impact. And at the same time, as much as we do not want to label and judge people, when it comes to something like this, when there is a promise, when there is commitment, when you talk about even personal growth and a person's personality and characteristics, there has to be a high level of integrity. Fair enough, we don't want to label them, but at the same time, let's go into the psychology of somebody who actually goes into this. So at the end of the day, there are people that we are generalizing here, by the way, and there are people that may perform this act and actually betray their partners by cheating, by going outside the marriage contract, by going outside the promise, by actually doing a lot of these things that, was not formally agreed to at the beginning. So what do you do then? How do you then describe this person and sort of try to save yourself the heartache by trying to understand the other, by maybe psychoanalyzing what goes through someone who cheats?
Okay, so great response, and I agree with you, Fahima. I think what you're saying is valid. I believe that what you're talking about is moral courage. And remember, we are all fallible as human beings. Every single one of us make mistakes all the time. Now, if there are individuals, like I said, that have narcissistic tendencies, that have psychological challenges, they're the people that you're speaking about in this respect. I'm talking about the understanding, the blanket of just calling someone a cheat in order to try and find out the truth. You're never going to be able to do that. I'm talking about gaining an understanding of the reasons why that person went where they went. Let me give you a personal example. I was married in 2007. I had a disassociation for my wife. We disassociated. There was an association initially. We disassociated. Now, you can call me a cheat, because what did I do? The moment I distanced myself from her, I began speaking to somebody else that's a colleague at work and creating a connection. Nothing happened physically, but I connected with that person. because I believe that the disconnect allowed me to fill a void that was in my life. That's an understanding. Now, she could call me a cheat just for speaking to another woman, just for creating a connection with another woman. Now, again, I didn't let it go to where it could have gone. However, I stopped myself because I understood what was going on and the consequences of my actions. And you're right. Think about it. How many people think about the consequences of their actions? Do we commit acts every single day and think about the consequences? Do we think about the impact our actions are going to have on other people? Who influences that? Where does that conditioning come from? Now, again, if we're talking about moral courage, we're talking about men stepping up and understanding, knowing that they are the ball of wisdom that they move forwards with, and this is what we believe them to be. So we hold that standard. I agree with you. We make a promise, we make a commitment, and our word is our bond. And without integrity and loyalty, what do we have? Without respect, what do we have? Without individual worth, what are we worth, really? Without individual value and worth. So again, I agree with what you're saying, but I see there's so much more that goes on. And the reason I say this is because I have to untangle the layers every single day. I have to go into people's unconscious mind and realize these are the patterns that are controlling them, not the patterns that they intend to exhibit or display in the world. It's the patterns that are controlling them, that are behind them, that they don't understand the consequences, the impact, the actions. But let's talk real. What is it? Emotional intelligence. How many men have
I'm
emotional
finding
intelligence?
your conversation really intriguing, really interesting, and I understand the language that you're speaking with. But again, a lot of people can say that's semantics about disassociation when you kind of, like we talk about a relationship nowadays in the media, in Hollywood, having an affair is entanglement. So, at the end of the day, I get what you're saying and I totally hear you, and I completely am with you on this as well. I think you brought up something really interesting though, because again, when someone's hurt, they're going to obviously look at just the act, and they're going to obviously portray that person as an entire character for many years. And there is a follow-up, even though that person embodies so many different things. So we are coming towards a really short break, and this conversation is really getting so interesting for me. We're going to come back with some more questions for Imran. I have got so much more to say on this as well. And if you want to call in, please do stay tuned and do listen. And hopefully we will see you in a short while where we will continue with this conversation. Please stay tuned, stay right where you are, because I'm only just getting warmed up here. And inshallah, we will see you after this very, very short break, and see you when we have Imran answer more questions as well. Assalamu alaikum.
With 3 million members searching, SingleMuslim.com proudly sponsors Single Muslim Live. With 3 million members searching, SingleMuslim.com proudly sponsors Single Muslim Live.
Assalamu alaikum. Welcome back to Single Muslim Live here on British Muslim TV, sponsored by SingleMuslim.com. And we're having a really, really hot discussion right now with regards to the topic of why do men cheat? Imran, before the actual break, you were discussing and you touched upon a journey that men go through. And there are points in their lives where, you experienced yourself having a disassociation with your own wife, where you did connect with somebody else. However, yes, a lot of people do see that. I mean, even if you're not married, let's be honest, and you're on a dating site talking to one person, and that person's talking to you, and then you find out they're talking to 2, 3 other people, you don't like that. So when you're in a marriage committed and you're actually connecting with somebody else who you should be now in a promise, in a relationship, give your all and those special moments to that one person, and if it doesn't work out that way, isn't that cheating? I mean, are we just trying to avoid that word because it doesn't sound very great, and what is attached to? What's your thoughts on that?
Okay, so connection is one of those things, right? Connection is one of those things, and let's just look at what we live for. You've got to remember, since the beginning of time, men have always been driven upon freedom. I mean, one of their primary emotions that they need to achieve, that they need to experience and get to, is freedom. For women, it's love. Now, now I'm going to go back to just this very quickly in terms of our two greatest fears is not being loved and not being enough. No one ever taught us all of this. No one ever taught us what happens in the components of the engine that are taking place there. However, creating that connection with someone else, what's happening in your life? My question first is, if someone comes up to me and say they've created a connection in their life with somebody other than their spouse, my question is, so what's going on? Are there some mental health challenges? What am I looking for? Are there some changes? Is there substance abuse? Are they just looking for connection? Have they disconnected from their partner, which means they need to find a way to reconnect and gain an understanding? Most of the time, we don't understand other people's model of the world because we don't even know our model of the world. What do we stand for before we can realize what we're willing to fall for? Anything. Now, look at aspects of society that influence us. Look at the way men and women get influenced so easily in certain aspects of their life. Now, do they have bad intent? No, that's what I mean. We are all fallible. We make mistakes every single day. I'm not saying, again, I'm moving aside the narcissistic and psychopathic tendencies on this, but that connection is something that we yearn for. Human beings. Look, COVID has taught us what connection means. Most of us have gone through last year thinking, wow, I just want to hug someone again. I just want to get to be able to hug my parents, my family, and they've realized that disconnect. We yearn for connection. That's why lockdown has been so hard. And I'm just going by my own scenario and situation here, and many people that I've coached. There are people that I've coached and I've realized their primary need and all they've been looking for is that love and connection where someone gets to understand them instead of having all the expectations based upon them. What are the conversations that take place between a husband and wife in a marriage? What are the conversations that happen in a relationship? How well can you connect those dots, right? How open are you in order to receiving and giving any of that? Now,
I hear you loud. Before you move on, I do actually want to sort of state, because as you mentioned, when men are looking for connection and they don't find it, where do they go? I've just picked up on that right now. And what I want to sort of like put back to you is that there are men also who are with women who may not be the best wives, but they still stick. And they still try to work at it. So what happens? So what is it that makes a person that's different? Because again, that's now blaming either the other person or the situation. Now, when you are going through a certain growth or you're going through a certain personal development, or you are built and wired in a particular way, what makes that person not water their own grass, but go somewhere else thinking it's going to be better? I mean, I'm just giving you that analogy, really, because that's what we're trying to say here, is to actually say, well, if we don't find that connection, if we don't do the certain things, and men are in a particular way, then, you know, this is what happens. But then there are men out there that are struggling in their relationships, and they will never, ever go down that path. What makes the difference between that man who will stick by their commitment, their promise, compared to someone who will actually ignore it all? They can even be religious, have even a double life, be in a particular way where they come across as a front that, you know, we're here at the mosque, and then on the weekend, it's a different place, a different house that they're sitting in with different people. What makes that difference? Is it really the fact that you're saying that we're just looking for connection? I mean, shouldn't we just look for connections and build in our own homes first?
Okay, good. Well done. I like that. So let's just go back a step for a minute. Okay. Let's talk about role models just for a second. How many of those men have good relationship role models in their lives? How many of those men have suffered as a result of what took place in their upbringing and their conditioning? I'm not making excuses here. I'm saying let's try and understand that. Let's try and get a little bit more maturity around what's happened previously in order to create the pattern. Now, you said, how is it sometimes easy for a man to stay there with someone who's fairly difficult, but what makes the difference between a woman's loyalty and a man's loyalty? Integrity, moral courage. How many men of courage do you see today? You know what? Let me tell you one thing. And I said this before, and I said this again and again. If I see an injustice happening before me, I faced a heck of a lot of racism throughout my life. I faced a heck of a lot of challenges and crises that have taken place. Do I fall flat in the face of them? No. I have to realize that I have a level of masculinity inside of me. I am a man and I am driven on masculinity. But what true masculinity means being courageous enough to make the right decisions, being honest and open enough with yourself to go on a journey of growth. Men go on this journey of growth much later than women do. Now, men get to a certain place in their life and a certain stage in their life where they have to face a crisis before they go on a journey of growth, before they go on an uphill battle. Up until that point, like I said, there are many reasons. We go back to conditioning, then we have a look at their belief systems, then we look at role models in that person's life. We believe we were born with integrity and loyalty and compassion. Really?
I hear you. I agree with you. I agree with you so much here, Imran. And I'm glad you mentioned the fact about role models, because it does come back to the point where we are actually sometimes repeating cycles. But on the other hand, with new studies, they do show that even if we do have these past wounds and we don't deal with them, we don't recognize them, that we do repeat them. But there could be two scenarios where if there were two brothers brought up in a household where their father was either abusive, or whether or not they saw divorce, or they saw their father have 2-3 other wives, and one might come out saying, I will never do that, and actually fulfill it. Or the other might say that, but they will actually repeat that pattern. Now, what is that difference? Because I think a lot of us are not actually adhering to what you're saying right now. We're not even at that level of understanding it. By the way, I just want to also remind the viewers that if you are affected by this topic in any way, it is a serious topic. They have got some, serious issues that we are discussing tonight. Please do take care. And here at British Muslim TV, we are here for you to support you. And if you do need to speak to anybody for guidance and support, you can contact us on britishmuslim.tv/support. Back to you, Imran. Again, when it comes to that psychological wound that we carry with us, are we really going to hold that nowadays as an excuse with everything that we know and learn? And as you said, there are influences in social media, and we hear of stories. There are 26-year-olds and 20 years old that actually understand these kind of technological, psychological sort of like aspects and distinctions, which you can Google today, which you don't need to go to a landmark forum for the Tony Robbins or any sort of personal growth. We are aware. We know, even being Muslim, we have our faith. And that also keeps us and guides us as to know what's wrong, what's right. Now, what do you do from there onwards? What, again, makes that person change to actually disregarding all of the guidelines, all of the boundaries, all of the things that are safeguarding and protection, and still makes them go in a road which is left instead of right?
Okay. Thank you. So let me go back to what you said, which is really interesting. If there were two brothers in one household, how do they end up taking two separate paths? Now, we can apply that to most areas in life. And psychologically, there's this one question. It's very interesting. In psychology, there's this question that people ask. And there's a primary question that runs throughout our life. And if we go back as far in history, throughout our unconscious mind, we'll realize that an event took place and it was pretty traumatic at that place. And we have a question that continuously runs around. Most of us do as human beings. There is a primary question. Now, a lot of people ask, why am I this bad? Why am I like this? And that's not a good primary question. That's not a question. However, there's another interesting question, is that whose love did you crave the most when growing up? Your mother's or your father's, or a role model outside of you? Who was the most influential in your life whilst growing up? That very question, the answer to that very question, will create a path that two separate people in one household will go down. Now, the second question you raised is about living with excuses about those wounds. Now, I don't believe it's an excuse. I don't believe those excuses are warranted. I believe I've been through my own set of challenges. I haven't used my environment, the insignificance of who I was at a stage in my life, the poverty. I haven't used any of those elements to blame, because if I blame them, I'm a victim, not a victor. I understand that there is more to me than what is outside of me. Now, again, that brings back the question that you're raising about a lot of these women feeling hurt. And let's look at it. Let's look at it genuinely. Fahima, if we want to tackle this problem, we've got to be straight up and honest. How is this patriarchal system that we have allowed women to feel subservient or less valuable than men? How were the relationships that we saw between our mothers and fathers, our grandparents, how important were they? Were they good? Were they role models? Were they effective? Did they get on? Did they not get on? How much value do we have for another individual? And that's saying the same time, how much value do we have for our spouse, our wife? Do we even know our values? So we're going another level here. Do we even know what we stand for? Because if we don't...
You are touching areas right now, which I absolutely love. This is my area of work personally as well, studying human mind and behavior and doing it at a level which is only going to increase in helping others. And you are touching on something which is absolutely amazing, Imran. I love what you're saying so far. It's absolutely brilliant that you're bringing about so much insight to this conversation, which most people will never normally do. And this is what we're here to do on British Muslim TV. And we are going to continue after a very short break. And please do stay tuned with us, because we are going to continue with this conversation. And again, I have so many questions, and I'm sure you do too. So if you want to WhatsApp me, please do so. The numbers are at the bottom of your screen, or why not call in? I'd love to hear some of you speak as well. So we will see you after this short break. Take care, and we'll catch you when you get back. Assalamu alaikum.
With 3 million members searching, singlemuslim.com proudly sponsors Single Muslim Live. With 3 million members searching, singlemuslim.com proudly sponsors Single Muslim Live.
Assalamu alaikum, and welcome back to Single Muslim Live here on British Muslim TV, sponsored by singlemuslim.com. We're having a really, really interesting conversation right now. And if you've just joined in, I want to say that welcome and thank you so much for coming back to us or joining us and supporting us. We're having a really good conversation here with Imran Ahmed, who is discussing why do men cheat? And we are going to go further into it. Now, Imran, when it comes to people who have actually gone through that barrier and they've actually decided to cheat, they've actually, even managed to break their homes, whether it's the impact of, and a lot of people have suffered through this, to be honest, where their families have ended in divorce. And it's not just about the partners, it's also the children that's at impact. And it's a huge consequence. It's a huge result for something like this. For everything that you've said about analyzing yourself and, having these psychological issues, these past wounds, not knowing, how you were brought up, and subconsciously, this is how your role plays out in the future. That's why it's so important to actually understand yourself, be aware and know your flaws. But people are not really geared up for this when it comes to marriages, whether it's even in our Muslim community, least of all in our community, because it's just seen to grow up. It's a cycle. You study, you work and you get married, and you tick those boxes without ever looking in between or deep. And that's why we're having all these issues that are rising. And it's not because of social media that's the problem. Specifically, that's given rise to maybe the connections, but at the same time, those behaviors and those sort of things that are happening is not new. We've heard it in even our grandparents' time. It's just that now we can hear it more louder and more easily spread. So how can someone recover if they've been unfaithful and themselves, if they actually are repentant, or for the person that's actually the other party who's now learned that their husband or their wife, because it does happen sometimes as well where women do cheat, even though the statistics do show that it's majority men, it does happen, unfortunately, even more so in our community. So how can somebody is there even a recovery? I mean, people always say once a cheat's always a cheat. Is that even something real? Is that something that we even have to address as in that? Because that's the reputation you have, unfortunately. That's what people see. I mean, I'm going to read out one WhatsApp message actually that anonymously has sent, saying that the traits of a cheater. My husband changed his routine. He had late night meetings, working out more, looking in the mirror, looking at himself quite smug, and putting blame on me for not doing more for myself while he was having an affair. Do you think that cheaters look for a reason to continue with this act? And if they're not repentant, or if they're only repentant because they get caught? That's what also the question is. If they get caught, then that's when, that actually they actually are sorry. I mean, I know I've given you quite a lot of questions there. You answer it in the order that you want, but it's really important that we do address this. So hopefully we can help someone that's thinking about cheating, going through it, or actually trying to recover from it.
Okay, great series of questions, and thank you for throwing 10 at me at once. But so, all right, let's look at it from this respect, right? There are so many differences when it comes to. You can tell me that there's a man, he's having an affair with a woman, he's blaming his wife. Now, I call that a very weak man, because again, I go back to the very, very important question about how much courage does that person have in their life. Now you generally get to you tend to know where someone's courages are and where their fears are and where their wounds are if you spend enough time with them. Now, if that person hasn't worked with them, it's not the wife's job to help the man get through it. It's not even the wife's job to lead the man through it. The man has to deal with his own challenges in his own way. Yes, he can be telling his spouse, his wife, everything that he feels and he needs to work on. But most of the time, he's probably going to be pretty embarrassed when it comes to this stage. So if he's going out and having an affair, this is a weakness that he's allowed himself to fall under. There's a certain level of influence that he's been able to let control and change his life. But let's look at what he's doing here. This isn't just an injustice to his wife. This is an injustice to himself. This is an injustice to the woman that he's playing with. This is an injustice because that means that person's, what does it mean? It means that person's torn inside. Torn why? Because you can't make a decision as to where you currently are and you don't even know where to go. So you're sitting on the fence. You're saying, hey, what do? I have no idea what to do. I don't want to be with this woman, so I'm going to disassociate. I want to be with this woman, so I'm going to associate. But I don't have the moral courage to make that decision. So what do? I lie. And in today's world, everyone lies. And when I say lies, I mean, look at the politicians, look at Brexit, look at Trump, look at the influences that we have to deal with look at social media. All it takes is a simple WhatsApp message for us to misinterpret something. So there are languages that take place in all of this, and there are role models that take place in all this. But as I said to you, Fahima, the most important thing being is that level of weakness, that lack of emotional intelligence will drive someone to not make the right decision and not realize the consequences and the impact of their actions.
I love what you're saying right now, because we do have a lot of problems. Oh, we do have a caller online before I continue. Salaam alaikum.
Alaikum. Yeah, I wanted to see the topic that you discussed. In reality, there will always be people that do cheat, and in reality, people do cheat and they go back home and no one knows about it because it's not. But one time, if they keep doing it, obviously that's how this physics work. People do get caught if you keep doing it, and then it will come a point where, when that happens, you just have to face the music. You have to get on with it and decide whether you want to be with the person or not. These things are part of life. Nothing in this world is going to be fairy tale where you get married, or if you're not even married, it's never going to be always perfect. You know what I mean? These things are part of life. But I also want to say, especially in culture and religion, women tend to have it more harder when they decide to speak to a man or say hello or anything or have a social life. I think it's the men that get worried. Why did the woman go out? It's more like, where have you been? You should be cooking. You should be cleaning. The woman, it's harder. But for men, it seems to be easier, and they think they can escape and cheat and no one's going to know. But they get caught because they go lap dancing, they go everywhere. It does happen. I've seen this happen. Anyway, keep up the good work. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you for your call. I love everything that you said, and you definitely highlighted some amazing points. Thank you so much for calling in. I really do appreciate that. It's really interesting what she said, and actually that was really rolling on to my next question as well. I'd like you to respond to the caller, but at the same time, just to add on that a lot of people in the community, even if a man cheats, it's again blamed on the woman. It's her fault why he cheated. What's your opinion on this?
That's crazy. I mean, come on. That's just insecurities, taking your insecurities to the next level. I mean, this is what I mean here. If you're gonna destroy yourself and make that decision and go down a path, don't take someone with you. Be honest and man enough. And like I said, Fahima, come on. We live in a world right now that men don't even know what it means to be a man. That masculinity, that very thing that differentiates men from women. Women yearn. I mean, women are a storm. I mean, they're amazing human beings, right? But if you understand a woman, if you understand her world, you realize I cannot do what my wife does. I cannot do that, right? I will be clear with you, and this is where my level of respect heightens to a huge level. And I have value for that individual because I realize that she is built in a different way. Her femininity is that's what I love. If she's a masculine woman, we're not going to attract. If she's a go-getter, she's hardcore, she doesn't have any feeling or emotion, then we're going to have some disassociation. But for a man to blame a woman for his inadequacies, his insecurities, his lack of faith and trust and integrity, that's a cop-out. I'm sorry. That's a cop-out, and that's what happens, and that's what most women need to stand up against, and most people need to stand up against, because I blame myself for everything that's happened in my life, even the things that I did have no control over. I was the age of 5 and things happened. I don't blame my parents. I don't blame other people. I blame me, because unless I blame me, I cannot work on anyone else but me, and that's where it starts. Ownership starts at home.
I love that. That is so true. I totally agree with you there. Do you think that we can actually recover and trust someone who's actually cheated, whether it's in that existing relationship or if they were to move on with a new partner? Do you think that that person can always hold that reputation for them not being trusted?
Okay, let me put it this way. Every single cell in our body changes every 7 years. Every 7 years we change. We wake up, we change. Change happens in an instant. If there's enough pain or enough pleasure, we decide to make a shift and make a change. There are changes happening that we are not aware of that we're going through right now. The only thing that we know for certain is that we're going to change, and one day it's inevitable that we're going to pass this world and we're going to die. So yes, of course men can change. Of course anyone can change. Do they have the appetite? But is there a strong enough why? Is there a reason that's strong enough that drives them to say, hey, I have to do it for my wife. I have to do it because I realize I messed up. I have to do it for my children. I have to do it for myself, most importantly, because if I don't recover from this, what happens when I take me to the next relationship? I do the same thing again. I face a challenge, I disassociate, I distance, and I move in a different direction. So there are patterns that the unconscious mind has programmed us with. Again, Fahima, this is just going a little bit, just think of it like software code. Most people are running on code from 30 years ago. They've not updated the software in their mind. It takes time, it takes effort, it takes growth, it takes energy, it takes wounds and pain to be able to go back to the past and understand that that code needs to be decoded and recoded in order to create a new version of you. Unless you do that, nothing's changing.
That is very, very useful advice and information, by the way. And that is so true that we do need to take ownership. We do need to reflect upon ourselves, and people can change and they can make mistakes and recover from it. It's just that unfortunately, unless we are on that growth and development journey, then we don't take that journey, nor do we actually give the other person that chance, because a lot of us can be scarred. And then we have to also deal with the consequences of that happening to us, so that we have to also take that journey as well. well. Again, I want to remind the viewers that if anybody has been impacted by this topic tonight, please do take care, and you can reach out to us on BritishMuslim.tv/support. We are going to go into another brief break, but do stay tuned. We would love to hear some more of your comments and questions, and if not, I've got plenty for you, Imran, and I'm looking forward to sharing more of your thoughts and hearing more of your insights. By the way, it's really been relevant and so useful right now, and hopefully we are helping somebody out there and we're making a difference, and this is what it's all about. So please do stay tuned, and thank you so much for watching so far, and we hope to see you on the other side of the break, and we'll see you in a few moments. Assalamu alaikum.
With 3 million members searching, SingleMuslim.com proudly sponsors Single Muslim Live. With 3 million members searching, SingleMuslim.com proudly sponsors Single Muslim Live.
Assalamu alaikum, and welcome back to Single Muslim Live here on British Muslim TV, sponsored by SingleMuslim.com. We've had an amazing conversation so far, and it's gone by even quicker than I expected, but we do have the final part, which, I have got to divulge right into asking you more questions, Imran. This is such a crucial topic right now, and there seems to be somebody who either has been through it or knows someone that's gone through it, which is, it's such a shame right now, because unfortunately it is become something so common that we do find that when we're not committed, we're not ready for commitment, and we don't know how to deal with uncomfortable situations, then we actually lose ourselves, and we actually disappoint ourselves. And remember, I'm saying ourselves, because as much as you hurt the other person, you actually do a lot of injustice to yourself by being and acting in this way, which is what you've actually said before, Imran. When it comes to moving on from, having this unfortunate circumstance, now, especially, forget someone who's actually done it. What about the person who is actually gone through it? Now, they have got to sit with the consequences of, being cheated on, maybe even reassessing if they want to be in this relationship, and, thinking about how can they even look at that person again in the same way? Yes, they have to rebuild, they have to work, they have to do things. But it takes two still, even though the other person put you in the situation. What would be some of the tips that you can give someone who's maybe going through this right now, who is sitting there feeling really lost and hurt, and both parties can be hurt, or maybe one more than the other? How would you advise them, Imran?
I think, great question. And I think this is where I do my work the best in this area, where it's actually making that shift. And I just want to reach out and say at the same time, even though you and I are trying to get a better understanding, Fahima, we're trying to give other people a better understanding. But if you're going through this right now, you need to hear this, because this ain't about you. Please understand that this is not about you. You are not broken. You are not fragile, and you don't need fixing. In the midst of the madness that you're going through, you've forgotten who you really are at your core. You've forgotten who you were, how you identify yourself, who you were before this took place. And the challenge for most of us is that we associate and we give meaning to a relationship, that when the relationship ends or something like this takes place, it means psychological death for so many people. But you are bigger than this. Come on, there was the caller that came on, and she mentioned this happens. Okay, well, yes, we don't need to just accept it, but of course we've got to understand that there are psychological this can lead someone to psychological death, and really the person going through it needs to realize that they are bigger than any relationship. The most important thing is their relationship with themselves, how they build themselves up. Again, their relationship with their creator means how much faith they have in their heart. Because without faith, without hope, you'll never see anything outside your current set of circumstances, because all you're going to see is what's around you. So let's see how we can understand this, because forgiveness is key in this area. For the person going through it, forgiving themselves, realizing it wasn't their fault. This other person was weak enough to make that distinction. But again, the wound doesn't need to be exacerbated and made bigger and bigger just in order for us to actually feel that someone's done injustice on our lives. We can change that around by really and genuinely. I see people and I see the breakdown that what happens to children, and that happened in my own household with my own parents, and I saw the effect that happened in my life. It was huge. It was massive. I saw cheating happen from the age of 4 or 5 everywhere. And I couldn't understand. You got to remember, I'm 40 years old. So this was quite new for Pakistanis back then, the Asians I came across. So this is probably an interesting subject because I've lived through it. However, if we look at connection, if we look at what Allah has blessed us with, if we look at moving on, we've got to, Rumi said this best, right? Rumi said, your task is not to seek love, but merely to seek and find all the barriers within yourself that you have built against love. And
I love what you're saying. We
we
do have a message, Imran, before you continue, because it kind of echoes what you're saying right now. And on a WhatsApp message, it says, Salam alaikum to Fahima and our guest today. Thank you for coming on, Imran. As they will be girlfriends, wife, and engaged ladies who could be listening today, I think as a Muslim, I don't recommend cheating. I think it's very wrong. It's never easy to forgive someone for cheating. I do agree that we all want to be loved and we want to have her enough for someone. But to answer why men do cheat, while it can be a topic which can cause controversy, I'm glad British Muslim TV is talking about this topic today and like to bring up good topics. I think a good reason could be fair to say that partners aren't spending enough time with each other and they just want to talk to somebody else. What would be your response to that? To maybe a reason as to why someone may actually turn to another person is because they are lost in their own relationship. We did discuss this at the beginning, but maybe you can shed some light further into that. Because again, I think we're constantly again trying to give an excuse for someone who cheats. And I think that's where we have an issue right now. And to be honest, we need to obviously recognize what's wrong is wrong and what's right is right. And at the same time, there are consequences, deep consequences for it. But those sort of people who do cheat, they need help, they need assistance, they need recognition, they need acknowledgement. So what more could you add to that, Imran?
Well, I'm glad you raised that, but we've gone through elements of that, and we've been clear in terms of there are different ways in how being unfaithful represents itself or presents itself in reality. So for some people, again, they're seeking validation, and again, I don't make excuses for men. You commit the action, you live by the consequences. I will never make excuse for a man that does that, or anyone. Forget a man. But you've got to understand, sometimes they don't even know they're in the midst of a crisis in their life, and they can be going through a mental health crisis. They could be looking for validation. Now again, let's go back to the original question. How did you marry your spouse? Was it through love or was it through compulsion? How did you understand? Did you go and sit down and say, hey, here's my list of values. These are the most important things to me in my life. I need to know what yours are. And this person says, hey, these are the most important things to me in my life. And you realize, whoa, these are two different people. How are they ever going to survive in a single environment? So how well do we understand ourselves determines how well we're going to be able to understand someone else. And if we're going to be making the right distinctions. I know people that are friends of mine that have got married for status. I know they've got married for comfort, for security. And again, most of us do look for things, but we could be seeking validation. They could be denying a part of their identity. In some cases, cheating happens because they're denying some part of their identity they're struggling to accept and deal with. So that's one aspect. Being emotionally immature is another aspect of this. And then we're looking at how they struggle potentially with substance abuse, with challenges that take place in the workplace, with pressure, with stress. There could be even revenge cheating. They may have, like that lady raised this question perfectly, that men may see a woman, their wife or their spouse, speak with somebody else, and that could cause them enough pain to go and cheat as a result of revenge that they want to take Again, a very low level behavior, a very low level pattern, but it's still a reason. And I know this because I've been through this with men, and I've had to get to the core of why they've done stuff. And I've realized, wow, this is for connection. This is for revenge. This is for themselves. This is out of confusion. So I'm saying I don't follow one path. I have to put all the pieces together to create the puzzle and then see the picture.
But you've done a lot of work on yourself, it seems, and a lot of us don't even understand that kind of way of, entering into a relationship. So I'm glad you've highlighted that. That is really important. We do find that we're not actually, having these kind of like lessons, whether it's premarital courses and understanding psychology and knowing other people's behaviors and our own, and having any sort of awareness, just thinking that marriage, again, is another tick on the box that we need to go and take the next level and the next stage. And now I think with the youngsters that are actually coming about these kind of awarenesses, and they're not tolerating, but then again, they've taken those steps and it's too late. So when it comes to even assessing yourself and trying to put yourself in the shoes of somebody else, like I know you even mentioned before that if someone was to cheat on you, yes, it's not your fault, and you should be able to hold yourself in a particular way to analyze that relationship. But the pain and hurt that comes out of that is so deep, especially when you've invested years in that one person, and that one person takes away the one thing that you've known and you've had just between the two of you, and that's what it's all about. How do you basically would say, before we end the show, because we have come towards the end, how would you sort of like recognize that there is pain there and then try and move forward? And this could be maybe a final thought that you would give for somebody that's actually going through this painful moment.
Yeah, that's interesting, because without pain, even though most of us do everything we can to move away from pain and move towards pleasure, but without pain, we don't change. Without pain, there are certain painful elements of our lives. Most of us don't see it while we're in the midst of it. But through pain, it can be our greatest savior. Our darkest day can sometimes be our best day. Because if it wasn't for that situation to take place, you would not ever have thought of filling the void with something else. You would never have thought to recognize your capabilities and skills. So pain is key in our own growth. But when you're going through it and you're in the midst of going through it, you genuinely...
That's amazing. I love what you said. And we unfortunately have come to the end of the show. You've given us so many insights, but I just want to also give you one more opportunity to have maybe a final statement before we do end, because you've said so many great things. You've given us so much beneficial food for thought. And if there was anything final that you would like to share, I'd love to give you that opportunity now, Imran.
Okay. Well, I just want to let people know at least that we cannot seek something that's not within us. In terms of love, in terms of happiness, in terms of joy. If we start changing the very emotions that we function from every single day, we're going to be able to exhibit that throughout our lives. And remember, we have to fill our cup before we can fill others up. So I hope and pray that we live our lives through positive emotion. And then you see the change happen. Trust me, it just takes it. You have to step out of fear. And the moment you step out of fear of what other people think, fear of society, fear of culture, fear of religion, fear of everything else, trust me, you enter a path that opens up, and there your life becomes a positive representation of who it is you truly are, not what other people told you you should be.
Lovely. Thank you so much for that. I appreciate your time. I appreciate everything that you said. I also want to thank the callers, the WhatsApp messages. It's been an excellent episode tonight, and I'm really grateful to be part of it. I want to thank you all for watching today, and I want to say thank you on behalf of British Muslim TV for tuning in and supporting us. And inshallah, we will be back with another episode, and we hope to see you then. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
With 3 million members searching, singlemuslim.com proudly sponsors Single Muslim Live.